that we just went through, it kind of blew all my bragging rights out of the water a bit. So I had 5,000 and some dollars left, right? And so it's like maybe December or January, 93, 94. And I think I'm making my house payment was $850. It's the only payment I have in my life. And I think, this is stupid. I'm going to run out of money here in like 3 months, and I'm not going to be able to start this company. I had nothing to, no collateral whatsoever. So I called up the mortgage payment and a lady in the company rather in LA, and she was, it was a lady, and she was talking to me. She goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I lost my job. I think I'm going to start a company. Well, how long is it going to take? I said, well, I don't really know. And she said, well, you can't not make your house payment. And again, in 93, you couldn't. You just couldn't. And I said, well, I could not make my house payment. And she said, well, we take your house. How long do you need? And I wish I would have said longer, but I said, 3 months. So it must have been December, because 3 months would have been March. But in March of 1994, there was a horrible earthquake in LA. And so where the office where my mortgage was got wiped out. So they didn't call me, and I sure didn't call them. So March turned into April, turned into May, and then this nice lady I had talked to before had turned into this Rottweiler of a person on the phone, and she's like, oh, you will pay by Friday or we will have your house. And I had 3 days to come up with the money. But by then I had the money. So we weren't drawing salaries. I had to unhook the electricity from the air conditioner to use the roaster. And we were working like 21 hours a day. And nobody was getting paid, and I wasn't paying myself rent, didn't have to make the house payment, so that money lasted a long time. And talk about another unforeseen turning point. I mean, how an earthquake in LA could give us 2 months to get enough traction to make the company work. We wouldn't have made it. I would have had to go do something, and so who knows what that would have been. Probably would have figured out some way to make it, but that's what did it. I was telling this story not long ago. We were going to Party Arty for the Nelson, and it had this old Toyota. I bought the second car was this old Toyota with like 100 and bazillion miles on it. And somebody ran into me on the way to this event, and we ended up getting, I don't know, like $1,100, which was a lot. That was another month or two. And then another time, shortly thereafter, I was coming up behind Hallmark, and this wheel fell off a trailer in front of me, and I tried to get out of the way, and I couldn't. It smashed in my car. And I got like $800 on that, and that took us another month. And we joked, I said, I just need one more wreck to get us through the summer. And we were just, anybody read Delivering Happiness, the Zappos book? Oh my God, is that a good book? They had all kinds of things too. They had it down to almost minutes and hours. But they went from a zero to a billion faster than any other company in the history of the world, which is pretty awesome. And they're still just living hand to mouth. Amazon bought them for $800 million, I think. But anyway, it resonated so much with me. I went out and did a tour out in Las Vegas of their facility. But anyway, little by little, it worked. I think about Malcolm Gladwell when I think about this, being in the right place at the right time, in total luck. This was 1993, 1994. I was just certain that I had waited too long, and missed the boat. But truthfully, any earlier we probably would have been too early, and any later somebody else would have done it, and we might have been too late. So that part was just blind luck. So that's kind of how the company got started, and we roasted in my basement in Brookside for 8 months, and then that April, Norman came to work with me March 6th of 1994. He was an old customer of mine from Butternut Coffee up in Omaha. And then I hired Mary in April. And so we had a deal where she was going to help us part-time. By then we had it was, what's a little accounting program that's not very powerful, but you can use it for home?
Quicken?
What's that?
Quicken?
Yeah, QuickBooks.
Yeah, for
QuickBooks.
Yeah.
So we were doing that. We had it so jacked up we couldn't do an invoice, and so I was doing my invoices on Word for Windows and then handed them to the customers. And so Mary came on to help, and we were going to pay her $10 an hour. So by the third or fourth day, she was accounting and office stuff. She goes, "You don't have any money to pay me." I said, "Oh yes, we do." She said, "No, honey, you don't." And then I thought, this is it. We hit our end. But that's okay. You know, you can pay me when we get the money. You can pay me. And so we worked through the summer. Norman wasn't paying. None of us were getting paid. So today Norman owns 5% of the company, and Mary took her what we owed her and turned it into stock, and she owns 1% of the company. And but that was kind of cool. But that was the only way we were able to make it. So what was the second piece then of the?
The thing about where we asked when we were at the library was, how has the recession changed your approach and how it's affected your business? But you can kind of speak. I think one of the trends we're talking about in class right now is vision. Where do you see the company going? What do you want? What are you thinking about?
Cool. When I started in spring or summer of '93, when I started thinking about the coffee, I wrote down our vision, which is still pretty much the same as it was then. And I wanted to I added it up with my house payment and what it would take to live. And I thought, if I can find 50 people who drink as much coffee as me, which is an insane amount, but I won't have to go. I won't have to go back to corporate. I can make it work. So we had a rather humble, vision maybe, but it was going to be to find. This hasn't changed, to find the best quality coffee that we can find in the world, roast it the best way known to mankind, and then get it to the customer as fast as humanly possible. So those are the three kind of the tenets that we still stand on. And we want to be the best roaster in the world. So we dialed it back a little bit and said, okay, we'll be the best roaster in the United States. I don't really care for the best in the world. I mean, I do, but I don't. So that's what we really endeavored to do that. And we got bigger, I think, than I ever thought we would some time ago. And so it's not really about big, but I think what you guys mentioned earlier, growth, I think is key. If you're not growing, you're dying. And this notion, if you think that you can sit still, it is a fool's errand. Unless you don't care about, unless you don't need to survive in the economy. But you can't stand still in any way, shape, or form. I don't think in any endeavor. So you need to be growing. You need to be growing, I think, to recruit good people, to keep and retain great people. Customers get bored. All of us, especially with our society today, in our attention span. If you think I like you today, so I'm just going to robotically continue to like you when you're not changing, it's not going to happen. Try that in your relationship and let me know how that works for you. You can't do it. So we have to keep growing. We want to keep growing in lots of different ways. We don't have to just grow by revenue. We can grow by revenue per person. We can grow by becoming more efficient. There's all kinds of different ways, and we actually do a lot of those, and we measure them. But as we started, the customers kept saying, "Geez, if you would handle this, we wouldn't have to have this other supplier." And if you're a really good business, you want the fewer number of suppliers as absolutely possible, right? So we would add syrups, we added coffee filters, we added cups and chocolate and chai and any number of items, all really related to our core business, but it was all really convenience for the customers. So we sell a lot of stuff today that's not coffee, but probably still 83 or 85% of our sales are coffee. A lot of tea. We're just coming out with our own tea line.
When's that coming out?
we just cupped a bunch of them today. So it's everything in packaging is 10 to 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks. So it's probably going to be 10 to 12 weeks. And every time I'm still after 18 years, I think, yeah, but we'll do it in 10 to 12 weeks. The film, the cartons, all that kind of stuff, printing dyes, all that business. And then we started 6.5 years ago. We opened up our first cafe in Brookside, and that was a real tipping point, turning point. But I knew the brand needed it, and Barnett Hellsberg is a good friend of mine, a good mentor, and he's like, you don't know anything about this, and just because you can do that doesn't mean you can do that. But intuitively, I knew the brand needed it. We needed the street cred. We would still get, geez, I love your staff, love your coffee, but we want to work with so and so because they have cafes and they're really going to help us. And I heard that just so much. I knew that it was going to be to our detriment if we didn't have a cafe. And I also knew that it was going to be several hundred headaches that I didn't have. That so personally, and I think when you're talking lifestyle and building and entrepreneurs, I think this is another key difference. So at that point, I knew my own lifestyle. I knew absolutely the worst thing I could do is start a cafe, because everything you ever heard about a cafe or restaurant is probably true. There are, lots of moving pieces, all kinds of different things that can go wrong. Very difficult, very complex. But I knew, or at least I felt I did, that the brand needed it, and while short term it wasn't going to be in my own, personal lifestyle best interest, long term and being the company's best interest, and that's certainly been the case. And we just went through it again about 1.5 years ago. We opened up out south by the Apple Store for much the same reason. There are all kinds of people out there that never heard of us, and that's great. These are all new customers, and so now we have 350 or 400 customers a day coming in every day, and there's just all kinds of neat stuff happening out there with that. And thinking forward in a vision, I'd say I love to read. I love all the Malcolm Gladwell books, and then the two that really seared in my memory are The Good to Great, and then that Delivering Happiness by Tony. And so I thought, I have this intense endurance, if you will, and high tolerance for pain, but I have really almost a no tolerance for not having fun. If I'm not enjoying something, I really can't fake it, and I don't want to do it, and I just can't make myself do it. But if I had to right now, I could just line up, and I know I could still work 18-hour days forever, if I needed to. But if I'm not having fun, I probably couldn't work one day. So reading that book about happiness, it's really about delivering happiness and how you can be. I love listening to Father Curran talk about intentionality and being deliberate. And anybody have kids? If you think about it, like with your kids, I think about that sometimes as I think about culture. Culture is going to happen, so you can let it happen, which I always was kind of flat-footed, never knew any better. I just let it happen. Your kids are going to find friends and hang out. So you can let that happen, or you can inform it, be intentional, be deliberate about it. And that was, if that was one thing I could do a redo on, it would be the whole culture piece that I was just, not sharp enough to figure out. So what I learned from that book, I listened to him speak, and then I read his book, and then I went out and saw him in Las Vegas. And I kept wanting to think, I'm going to peek behind the curtain and see what really is there, and it's the real deal. He is all about being happy, and I'm totally subscribed to the notion that you cannot make anybody happy. You cannot, but you can inform, you can create, you can you can make conditions that would inspire happiness. So specifically in our workplace. So I can't make any